is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, give myself the jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to cover, such as the DNL on the men's side. All 8 teams have been finalized, and unfortunately, the U.S. is on the outside looking in. Tough times for those boys, but there are better days ahead. The future still looks bright, and there were a lot of players that stood out when it came to that. Also, the women's DNL finals are this week. Can the U.S. somehow pull a stunning upset over Italy? It'll be tough when it comes to beating Italy. Let's just say that. Also, we have ABT action to go over as Week 6 is in the book. Week 7 is not for another week. And also, we have for high school girls volleyball 2027. We have a couple big-time players making their commitment. Where did they commit to, and who are those players? Hand me a volleyball. Summer, division for volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. Your feed for all that is And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 308 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube as well as Twitch and on X. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we can definitely make it happen. So please definitely subscribe to us. It would mean a lot. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you got t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. Also, check out our blog as well, and check out our Hall of Fame, where yours truly is inductee number 10. And also check out our Fans of the Month as well. For the last 11 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to some of our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. On that note, let's get on in to what those sponsors are all about. See you on the other side.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out some of our sponsors. We'll have our other sponsors coming on in a little bit, but also make sure to follow SetPoint on social media at set_point.ie on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can also follow me personally on X as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. You can follow SetPoint on Instagram as well at set_point.iesr. I'm trying to build that up, and with your help, I could definitely make it happen. So please do follow SetPoint on either X or Instagram. Maybe I'll get TikTok in the near future, but that's a big maybe. But I digress. All right, so without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So not too much volleyball happening. Well, not this week at the very least, but we had quite a bit to go over last week. So we had the men's VNL. So last week was the final week of the men's VNL in terms of the regular season. So the men's VNL got started late on Tuesday if you're in the United States. So you had Brazil taking out Argentina in 4 sets. This isn't a surprise just because Brazil has just been kicking butt and taking names when it comes to the VNL. They are just on a tear. And there's a reason why they came in number 1 in the standings. So no surprise seeing Brazil knock off Argentina in 4. And then the U.S. took down Turkey in straight sets. Now, I will say, even though the U.S. did win, this match felt a lot closer because Turkey is just not one of the better teams in the men's VNL. It's easy to say that, unfortunately. But the U.S., they needed to grind this one out in the first and third set. They won the match 26-24, 25-21, and 29-27. So the U.S. definitely need to grind in terms of winning that one because they were in a sticky situation trying to make the men's VNL finals. As my boy Marcus Los, great, pops in the chat room. He says, salute to you too, Marcus. Thank you for tuning in, my brother. So now we jump on into the rest of Wednesday's matches. You had Japan taking down Germany in 4 sets. Japan got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then they picked themselves up following the first set, and they were able to win in 4. Not too shabby, if you ask me. Japan just plays so fast and so clean and so defensive. And then also you had France taking down China in 4 sets. I should also mention that the host sites for last week's VNL were Japan, Poland, and Slovenia. So you have that right there. The France taking out China took place in Poland. But just like Japan with Germany, France got off to a slow start against China, and France was able to shake off a slow first set and then take the match. China has already qualified for the men's VNL finals just because they're hosting it, and the rules say that if you host the VNL, you automatically qualify regardless of what your record is. So there's that right there. Then you had Ukraine taking on the Netherlands in 5 sets, which when you look at it, the Netherlands are not anywhere near good, but it was a good win for Ukraine. And then you had Cuba taking out Bulgaria in 5. That was a nice win for Cuba. They were also fighting for their VNL finals lives. The good news it was for Bulgaria, they did see the return of Moni Nikolov. That was big right there. So great to see Moni back in the lineup. Then you had Italy sweeping Serbia. That's not too big of a surprise. It wasn't even close. Then you had Poland outlasting Iran in 5. This was an interesting matchup just because Iran was fighting for their VNL finals lives, and Poland was pretty much trying to solidify a spot in the VNL finals. And Poland I will say for Iran, they've really improved. A few 5-set matches go their way, and this team, well, you're about to find out what happened with Iran. Then you had Slovenia taking out Canada in 4. Slovenia had a slow start, just like the likes of Japan against Germany and France against China, but Slovenia shook off that first set to win the next 3. Then you had Turkey taking out Germany in 4. Now, this one was kind of a costly match for Germany. This one, I think, really hurt Germany's chances of making the VNL finals. And you just cannot lose to a team like Turkey, especially since Turkey is just not one of the better teams in the men's VNL. So overall, that was a very costly loss for Germany, especially since they were fighting for the VNL lives. And Turkey really learned from the loss against the U.S. They won a lot of these close sets. Like the first set was 29-27, second set 25-22. Third set was just a blowout for the most part from Germany. And then fourth set, Turkey wound up winning 30-28, which was incredible. Brian Francione pops into the chat room. He says, "Good evening, Mr. Teran Rodriguez." Good evening to you too, Brian. Thank you for tuning in. So that's that for Wednesday's matches. Thursday, you had Japan taking down Argentina in a reverse sweep. That was a big win for Japan. Costly loss right there for Argentina. They really could have used that win. You're about to see why. Then you had Iran sweeping China. No surprise there. Italy outlasted Ukraine in a 5-set barn burner. Italy almost got reverse swept, but you got to remember this is Italy we're talking about, and Ukraine just kind of lacked that experience. So Italy stood on business after almost seeing a 2-0 lead slip through their fingers. But you got to like Ukraine. This is their first time in the VNL period, and they've made the most of their opportunities. They've taken down or pushed a lot of good teams to the brink. Then you had Cuba taking out Poland in 4, which was so huge. That was so big for Cuba in terms of making the VNL finals. You had Slovenia sweeping Netherlands, not too surprising there. And then you also had the U.S. taking down Argentina in 4. Now, this one was, you're probably wondering, why did Argentina play twice? Well, Japan, it's a whole different time zone and whatnot. So the early match from Argentina to Japan was probably like in the wee hours of Thursday. And then the second matchup, and then Argentina's second matchup against the United States, that one was also in the late hours of that same day. So technically, Argentina played 2 matches in one day. So that's pretty incredible if you ask me. Jumping to Friday, we had Brazil sweeping Japan. This was kind of a statement win right here for Brazil. This is a big win right there for Brazil. I think Brazil just continues to show its dominance. And the crazy part is that Brazil took down Japan in Japan, on Japan's home soil, which I thought was pretty incredible. Then you had France taking out Cuba in 5. Crucial win right there for France, especially since they really needed to win in order to solidify a spot in the VNL finals. Cuba, well, that loss obviously hurts, but they did earn a point in terms of the VNL standings. Then you had Serbia sweeping Ukraine, which I thought was a big surprise right there, just because, well, for starters, that's going to hurt Ukraine's chances of making the VNL finals. And Serbia was one of the not so good teams in the VNL on the men's side. They were on the borderline of possibly getting relegated, but that win definitely helped them out in terms of not getting relegated. Then Bulgaria swept China, not surprising there, especially when you have Moni. Canada swept Netherlands, not too surprising. Netherlands is not good, and Canada still has Skylar Varga. Then Brazil took down Turkey in 4. No surprise there, except all the sets were pretty close. So Turkey really loves to battle in close sets with opponents. Problem is with them, they just can't close off some of these sets. Then we jump into early Saturday in the United States. You had Germany taking down the United States in 5. This loss kind of came back to nip the U.S. in the butt, which you're about to see in a little bit. But man, this was a tough loss for the United States. The U.S. lost the first set 25-22, won the next 2 by scores of 25-22 and 25-17. But then Germany kind of blew the doors off of the U.S. in the 4th set, 25-15, and they wound up outlasting them in that 5th set, 15-12. Oh, man. If there was ever a match that the U.S. needed to win, it certainly was that one. They needed to win that one. Ugh. And then Serbia took down Canada in 4. Now, interestingly, that Serbia, this certainly definitely certified that Serbia was not going to get relegated. But yeah, the Canada wasn't going to advance to the VNL finals regardless. So honestly, no matter what happened with Canada, they weren't going to advance to the VNL men's volleyball, the VNL finals. Then you had another big stunner. You had Bulgaria taking down Poland in 5. Bulgaria wound up winning on a walk-off service ace from Moni Nikolov himself. Got him in the deep corner. That was big right there. That was maybe the biggest serve of Moni's life. So bravissimo when it comes to Bulgaria. And yeah, it's crazy having both Nikolov brothers on that team. Then you had France sweeping Iran. Not too surprising. First and third set were close between Iran and France, but France had that experience. And again, Iran, if they learn how to close sets and they learn how to win 5-setters, they can be dangerous going forward. And then you had Italy taking down Slovenia in straight sets. Kind of a big win for Italy, as that put Slovenia in a sticky situation. Then you had Argentina taking down Turkey in 5. Kind of surprising, but the ending of this match, oh man, this rule seems to be so confusing. So apparently the rule was that the Turkey player made contact with the net, but that wasn't the case. But apparently it was some sort of net violation or over the net violation, and apparently there wasn't definitive evidence regarding that or something. I just saw the instant replay and it was just confusing. I don't know if that should have been the point for Argentina, but overall it was a tough way to go out for Turkey, but sometimes that just happens. And so, I hate to say this, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for Turkey, but they shouldn't have never gotten to that point where they had to play a deuce game in set 5. So tough one for Turkey, but Argentina kind of got their for glory win right there. And then Brazil took down Germany in 4. No surprise there. I mean, Germany kind of was a little broken after they wound up losing to the likes of Turkey. So there you have it right there for Saturday's matches. Then for Sunday's matches, this kind of got a little bit dicey. So Japan versus the U.S. The U.S. pretty much needed to win in order to have any sort of fighting chance to making the VNL finals. But unfortunately, Japan playing so fast and so defensive and so amazing, they wound up sweeping the U.S. And it's tough because Japan had a lot of experience on their team. The U.S., again, they're kind of trotting out some young guys, especially some players that that have never really seen a VNL court. And you got to remember that the U.S. is on the road. They're playing in Chiba, Japan. So all in all, the U.S. did not qualify for the men's VNL finals, which is a bummer. But again, better days are ahead. I'll give my thoughts on the U.S. a little bit later. So then you got Canada taking down Ukraine in 4. This was a big loss for Ukraine. Had Ukraine won, they would have advanced to the VNL finals. But this loss also puts the Ukraine on the outside looking in, which really sucks because Ukraine had such a great first run in the men's VNL. But unfortunately, Canada was able to keep them on the outside looking in, as Skylar Varga just continued to have himself a big. He proved why he was a national champion for Long Beach State. So a good win for Canada, a tough loss for Ukraine, but the field was so competitive in terms of getting the last few spots. So you're about to see why. Then China took down Cuba in 5. Nice little momentum booster for China. Cuba did already lock up a spot in the VNL final, so I wouldn't be surprised if Cuba had rested all their starters, but I digress. Then you had Italy sweeping the Netherlands. With that loss, Netherlands had been relegated. I think regardless of whether Netherlands had beaten Italy or not, they would have been relegated. They only had one win, which is unfortunate for Netherlands. They're going to have to work their way back up in terms of getting back to the VNL, as they'll have to win the Challenge Cup and whatnot. Then Iran took down Bulgaria in straight sets. That put Bulgaria in a very sticky situation. They would have needed, at that point, they needed Slovenia to get swept, which, let's just say, it didn't happen. And then Iran, they did make the top 8, but you're about to see that that's not going to matter. And then Poland took down France in a thrilling 5-set match. That was a great win by Poland. Nice little bounce back after losing to Bulgaria. So keep an eye out for Poland, especially since Wilfredo Leon is back in the lineup and doing big things for Poland. And then closing off the final match of week 3 of the men's VNL, you had Slovenia taking down Serbia in 5 sets. Now, I kind of expected this to go a little bit more of the Slovenia's way, especially since Slovenia was at home. But you never know when it comes to this matchup. I feel this one is kind of a rivalry matchup, but I digress. So Slovenia, with that win, they qualified for the men's VNL. So looking at the standings when it comes to the men's VNL, you had Brazil finishing 11-1, Italy finished 10-2, France, Japan, and Poland all finished 8-4, with France finishing with 24 points. Japan and Poland both had 23 points, and Japan was able to win the set ratio tiebreaker. Then you had Slovenia finishing 7-5. Now, here's the crazy thing. So Cuba, Iran, Ukraine, Bulgaria, the United States, Argentina, Canada, and Germany all finished 6-6, which is crazy if you ask me. And I said yesterday that 6 teams finished 6. Is that? No, I think that's no. It was 6 teams. I think Germany finished 5-7. I'm sorry. The 5 on my screen looks like a 6, but I digress. Anyway, but yeah, a lot of teams finished 6-6, which is just crazy if you ask me. So yeah, 6 teams finished 6-6. Cuba was the lone team that advanced to the men's VNL final in terms of finishing 6-6. Iran actually finished in the top 8, but unfortunately, since China is the host of the men's VNL, they get top priority over Iran. So Iran is technically the first one out. And then also Ukraine finished 6-6, which I don't think anyone predicted. This was a big first run in the VNL for Ukraine. And then Bulgaria had a great turnaround. And then Argentina was a little bit surprising seeing them on the outside looking in. And the United States, obviously playing their B team, they obviously finished on the outside looking in. More thoughts on them in a little bit. And then Canada and Canada and Germany finished 13th and 14th. And then finishing 15th, 16th, and 17th were Serbia, Turkey, and China, respectively. And the Netherlands finished at the bottom. So you had that right there. All right, so my thoughts on the United States in terms of them sadly not making it to the men's VNL finals. Look, it's tough. I really would have liked to have seen them in the men's VNL finals. And, oh, man, this is where winning that match against Germany would have definitely gotten them in. But sadly, that was not the case. It's unfortunate for the U.S. I will say it was tough seeing the U.S. not advance. But you got to remember, this is pretty much their young guns. They have a lot of budding stars on their team. They have players like Cooper Robinson, who really stepped up. He's got a bright future. You had Gabby Garcia, who also stepped up. Mason Briggs also played well at libero. Andrew Rowan, who's going back for his 4th year at UCLA. He's going to be a superstar setter after he graduates from UCLA. And also getting hit by the injury bug just did not help. Losing players like Patrick Gassman just didn't help. They lost Shane Holdaway, which was obviously tough tamale. But for the U.S., it's just a live and learn moment. And Karchkarai's first stint as the men's national coach in terms of volleyball, I think was a success. Obviously, we would have liked to have seen the U.S. make it to the men's VNL finals, and they were one win away from qualifying. If they had won one more match, they would have knocked Cuba out. And then the U.S. would have been the 7th seed, and then they would have faced Italy. Would they have beaten Italy? Probably not. But honestly, a salute to the U.S. You got to continue to buy stock into them. They won't be back until the World FIVB World Championship, probably, I think it's in like September or October. Regardless, we could be seeing the return of many Olympians such as TJ DeFalco and so on and so forth. Kyle Ensing was also part of the U.S. national team in terms of the VNL as well. But your top 8 is as follows: Brazil, Italy, France, Japan, Poland, Slovenia, Cuba, and China. So The men's VNL finals will be taking place in not this week, but next week in China. So keep an eye on that. But we're going to circle the wagons. We'll circle the wagons on this next week when we preview the men's VNL. But let's take ourselves one commercial break. When we come back, we've got some women's VNL to preview. We've got some AVP to go over, and we got some class of 2027 girls volleyball commits to go over. So keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after a word from some of our sponsors.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. And once again, check out iSportsRadio.com and make sure to subscribe on YouTube to iSports Radio. We would appreciate it if you were to do so. And thank you for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And again, make sure to follow us on X and TikTok, which is our main social media platforms. And also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, let's close off the second half of the show strong as we got some women's VNL to discuss. So now it's time for the women's VNL finals, which is this week, and it's going to take place in Poland. So pretty awesome sauce. So one by one, I'll make my predictions for this, and I will tell you all who's going to be winning. So first matchup, you got Italy versus the United States. So the United States is the 8th seed. They'll be taking on Italy, who has not lost a match in this year's VNL, and they have not lost a match, period, since week 2 of the VNL. So they haven't lost a match in over a year, which is crazy if you ask me. But this is going to be an uphill climb. And honestly, I don't want to be disrespectful to the U.S. too much, but let's be honest. Italy is just playing on a whole other level. They are not just the standard. They are the golden standard. They're just setting themselves up for success, and they're proving why they are the gold medalists from last year's Olympics. So, look, I want to say the U.S. has a good shot at making this interesting, but at the same time, it's like Italy is just tearing teams apart. It's the way that they're playing is just crazy. So, I got to go with Italy on this one. I hate having to pick against the United States, and I'll be the first to say that I'll be the first to say that I was wrong about the U.S. losing. But honestly, Italy is just too good, and they've got too much talent on that team that's experienced and that returns from their Olympic team. The U.S. just simply doesn't have that. They have a first-year head coach who is still trying to iron out the kinks and whatnot. So overall, for Italy, I think they get the win over the United States. But again, I'll be the first person to say that I was wrong if the United States somehow pulls the upset. That's a big somehow, though. That's on Wednesday. And next matchup, you got the host Poland taking on China. All right, this one's an interesting matchup. So it was looking like China was kind of going to be either close to the 8th seed or the 7th seed. But honestly, China just pulled off 2 reverse sweeps in the last week of the women's VNL, which I thought was incredible by them. China is such an interesting opponent. I feel they start off slow on purpose, and then they just pick it up as the match progresses. Now, Poland is also an interesting team. They're the host team, and they haven't really seen to be ultimately invincible. I really want to give China a chance, but I feel if they start, they beat the U.S. on the road, and I'd say this would be a barn burner and maybe an offensive output from both these teams. But I think China's just playing some great defense, and they've been passing so well. So I think just to be safe, I'll take Poland. I'll take Poland in a 5-set barn burner. Don't be surprised if China somehow pulls off the upset, but I just think Poland, having the home crowd on their side, I think they pull off the win against China. They barely eke one out. So that's all of Wednesday's matchups. Then on Thursday, you got Japan versus Turkey. So this is another interesting matchup. Turkey has kind of, I wouldn't say they've taken a step back, but they just don't look like the Turkey that I thought that I always see when it comes to the women's VNL. They're still good, but Japan is just playing amazing defense, and they just know how to regulate offenses across the net. So I don't want to say that Turkey doesn't have a shot at this, but I just feel Japan, I think, might have the edge. It's so tough to really say. I have yet to pull an upset or pick an upset, but you know what? There's a first time for everything. I'm picking Turkey in the upset. I think Turkey is going to crack the code when it comes to Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if Japan wound up winning, but I think Turkey pulls off the upset. I use upset pretty loosely because I want to say that Turkey is ranked higher than Japan in terms of the world. But in terms of like VNL standings, this is not an upset, or this would be an upset if Turkey were to take down Japan. So I'll take Turkey in the upset over Japan. That's probably going to be my only upset of the VNL, as I've got Brazil taking down Germany. This one's kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion. I think Brazil, they're also on a whole other level. I want to say I think Ana Cristina is out, but Brazil just has so many more options when it comes to their team. So Brazil won't be at full. I don't think Brazil's going to be at full strength. But then again, most of these teams haven't been at full strength. They haven't really showed us their hand in terms of their true Olympic talent from last year. So I think Brazil still has the edge over Germany. So give me Brazil over Germany. Then the semifinals, I would have Poland versus Italy. Even though Poland is good and they have the home field advantage or home court advantage, I think Italy will advance to the final. I got Italy in the first finalist. And then the other final, I would have Brazil taking down Turkey, probably more handily than Germany, probably. Turkey, I think, could battle. I think Turkey might be underrated. I think of all the teams that are, no. I think China could pull off an upset against Poland, but Turkey could also pull an upset against Japan. But I think Brazil will end Turkey's run in the women's VNL final. So I got Brazil and Italy in the final. And in the women's VNL finals, I'm taking Italy to win. Look, I don't want to say that Brazil's going to lose, but Italy, until I see someone beating Italy or until I see someone standing up to Italy, I think Brazil just doesn't. I think Brazil will probably just get eked out. And that's no disrespect to Italy in terms of their team. I think Italy is a fantastic team. It's just that I feel that Italy has just been the golden standard. And Brazil, I got a lot of respect for their team, but I just think that, again, Italy has been the standard this year. They're not just setting the standard; they are the standard, which is just absolutely bonkers, if you ask me. And I mean, they've been taking down teams left and right. Like last in the week 3 of the women's VNL, three out of their 4 matches were sweeps. The only match that they didn't sweep was a 5-set thriller against Turkey, which is no surprise. I mean, again, this is Turkey. They're always really good in the women's VNL. And then the other time they went 5 was against Japan, where they had that thrilling 5-setter where set 5 was decided 19-17. So I think until we see another team taking down Italy or challenging Italy again, like Turkey and Japan did and Germany did, which you could make the argument that was just week 1 of the women's VNL. I think Italy is still going to be standing on top of business. I think this is just going to be absolutely bonkers and insane. So I really think that Italy is just going to – I think Brazil is just going to be an instant classic. They have not – they did meet against one another in week 1 where Italy swept Brazil. But, again, you could make the argument that was just week 1 of the VNL, and week 1 doesn't really count for anything just because a lot of these teams are getting their feet wet, and most of these teams don't have their Olympians. So I think for Italy, I think they have the upper hand against Brazil, especially since Brazil will probably not be at full strength. They're most likely not going to be at full strength. So give me Italy winning the women's VNL. All right, but that is that right there when it comes to the women's VNL. I think it's going to be fun times, and I think it's going to be it's going to be really fun. And I think Friday and Saturday are the women's VNL finals. So yeah, the semifinals are on Friday, and then you've got the final is So you got the semifinals on Friday, and then the third place match and the championship match on Saturday. So there you go. All right, wait, hold on. 27th? No, I'm sorry, everybody. So the semifinals are on Saturday, and then the third place match, and the first place match are on Sunday. So there you go. There you have it right there. That's how we do it. Anyway, but that is going to do it for the women's VNL preview. I think it's going to be a very fun women's VNL. I think anyone can win. I think any of these teams can win it, but I just think Italy is the golden standard. Don't be surprised if Turkey advances to the final. Don't be surprised if Japan advances to the final. I think we're in for a treat when it comes to this whole thing. I think it's going to be a very fun women's VNL final. So there you have it right there. That is going to do it for the women's VNL preview and my predictions. So let's jump to week 6 of the AVP League. So week 6 of the AVP League went to New York. So that actually went to, am I reading this correctly? New York City. So it actually was in, what was it? Times Square, I think. Am I reading this right? I gotta look at this. Just gotta Central Park. So Central Park. Why did I say Times Square? That would not be fun. Anyway, so yeah, Central Park. I'm hearing that there were not a lot of bleachers and it was just so crammed. Long story short, I would say that maybe that that this should have taken place at Madison Square Garden, but it's like, do they really have the money to rent out Madison Square Garden or the Garden? That depends. But Yeah, Central Park was the site for the AVP League. This took place on Saturday, yesterday and Saturday at Woolman Rink. Yeah, an ice rink. It took 12 hours to get the Woolman Rink to become a beach volleyball court, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. So hats off to New York. It could have been better just because there were just small bleachers. It should have been at a bigger place. Maybe have it at like the place where NYCFC or the New York Red Bulls play, or again, Madison Square Garden. I mean, that would be big right there. Having it in a landmark stadium like that. So that would just goes to show how far the AVP League has not come, but I digress. All right. Anyway, intro out of the way. First matchup was the Austin Aces taking on the New York Nitro on the women's side. The Aces took down the Nitro 12-15, 21-19, and 15-5. Good win right there for the Aces. That is the duo of Kristen Nuss and Teran Rodriguez. They were able to take down Corinne Quiggle and Megan J. Rice. And then on the men's side, you had the New York Nitro sweeping the Austin Aces 15-11 and 15-12. That was Team Taylor picking up the win for the Nitro, so the Nitro pretty much split. Also on Saturday, we had the Palm Beach Passion sweeping the San Diego Smash 15-13 and 15-10. The Passion pretty much inched closer to clinching a spot in the AVP League Championship as Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson wound up taking down the Smash, which Smash is only in week 2 of having Devin Newberry on the women's side with Gina Arango. And then on the men's side, you had the Palm Beach Passion sweeping the San Diego Smash 15-12 and 15-12. Another big win for the Passion as they move closer to clinching a spot in the championship. Then you had on Sunday the Austin Aces taking down the Palm Beach Passion in a 3-set barn burner. This was another rematch between Kristen Nuss and Teran Rodriguez taking on Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson. And honestly, good for Kristen Nuss and Teran Rodriguez. They were able to do. This is kind of becoming more of a rivalry, just because you got to remember that Wilkerson and Humana-Paredes were the ones that took down Cloth and Brasher in the Olympics last year in the round of 16, which many thought that was a stunning loss. But for those that are like me, who know that Humana-Paredes and Wilkerson are a bad matchup for Nuss and Brasher, it's not really considered an upset. So I think that's becoming a nice little rivalry right there. I wish if I could ask either one of those pairs, that I would probably ask them that, is this becoming a friendly rivalry at that, just because Canada is friendly and whatnot. So you know what I mean. And then on the men's side, we had the San Diego Smash taking on the New York Nitro, and the Smash was able to pull off a big win over the Nitro as Chase Budinger and Miles Evans were able to take down Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb in a 3-set barn burner, 15-10, 13-15, and 15-12. Very nice win for the Smash as they kept their slim playoff hopes alive. And then on the men's side, you had the Palm Beach Passion sweeping the Austin Aces 15-13 and 15-7. No surprise there. The Passion just continued to roll past the competition. And then closing off the weekend, you had the New York Nitro taking down the San Diego Smash in a 3-set barn burner, 15-13, 10-15, and 15-11. So there you have it for week 6 in Central Park, which, again, bravo to the AVP for having it in Central Park, but not so bravo for having just small bleachers and not a whole lot of space. So it could have been better, but could have been worse. So looking at the leaderboard, two teams have played all 16 of their matches. You had the Palm Beach Passion and the San Diego Smash having played 16 matches. San Diego is in 7th place at 6-10. They do not have any more matches, while the Palm Beach Passion is in 2nd place. They have 12 wins and 4 losses. They pretty much have clinched a spot in the AVP Championship. Heck, they might actually be close to clinching the 1 seed. That just goes to show how amazing Palm Beach has played. So great job to the Passion. The San Diego Smash, it's not looking too good for them making it back to the playoffs. And the only way they'll make it back to the playoffs is if the New York Nitro and the Dallas Dream or the Dallas Dream just fall off and they finish with a worse record below San Diego. But if New York and Dallas win at least 2 matches, or heaven forbid the Austin Aces or the Brooklyn Blaze lose along the way or lose out, then San Diego would be able to swoop in. But Brooklyn has as many points as San Diego does, and San Diego has played more matches than Brooklyn, and Brooklyn has 4 more matches remaining. And then Austin has 4 less points than San Diego, so if anything, San Diego would have to swoop in and take Austin's place in terms of the playoffs. But if San Diego wants to make it back to the AVP League Championship, they are going to need to have to hope for the best and whatnot. They're going to need a lot of help. And then the Miami Mayhem, they have 8 matches remaining. They would need a miracle in order to make the AVP League Championship. They only have 1 win on the season, which is very sucky, but it is what it is. And sometimes that's just how it is when it comes to pro volleyball and whatnot. So week 7 is not this week. It'll be next week, as it'll be taking place in Austin, Texas at the HEB Center. So the teams will be that are playing are the New York Nitro and LA Launch, Miami Mayhem, and Austin Aces. And then week 8 will be in Dallas, Texas at the Comerica Center. So you have that right there. And then, like I said, the league championships will be in Chicago, Illinois. Lucky dogs. Anyway, but yeah, no AVP this week. So the only thing that's going to be happening in terms of volleyball is, I mean, there's all other volleyball happening. There's like the U21 teams playing this week, and there's the University of San Diego and UC Irvine partaking in some sort of like international tournament. But not too much volleyball happening in terms of the pros. At least not too much. So that's that for the AVP. So before we head on out, we do have some high school girls volleyball class of 2027 commits to discuss. So I talk about this player quite a bit. Emma Kingston, she of Modern Day, she committed to Cal, which I thought is a really big get for the Golden Bears. Emma Kingston, I've been saying this a lot about her. I don't understand how she's not in the top 125 on Prep Dig. It just doesn't make any sense, at least not nationally. I'm sure she's got to be in the top 50, if not 25, in terms of Prep Dig's top California players in the class of 2027. But I digress. But yeah, Emma Kingston is committed to Cal, which I think is awesome. I think Emma Kingston is a diamond in the rough player. I think she's going to do great things for Cal. I expect her to have a big junior year after having a little bit of a sophomore slump. I think she's just going to do amazing things. And then another player that committed was Caroline Ward. She committed today to SMU, which I think is really awesome if you ask me. So she's 6 foot. She's a right side hitter. She's from Indiana. And she is number 2 in terms of the state via Prep Dig, and she's the number 1 right side hitter in her class. So good stuff right there. And congratulations to Caroline Ward for committing to SMU. So this news was actually just released about maybe 2 hours before I went live. So you have that right there. So class of 2000. So most of the class of 2027 are starting to become more complete. So some notable girls volleyball players that still haven't committed are Island Real. All eyes are on her when it comes to her commitment. I really want to see where Island Real is going to be landing. Whoever gets her is going to be getting a dynamite player. Then you have Marissa Jones, who is the number 1 setter of the class of 2027 via Prep Dig. Then Kalia Lee is another talented setter from Cathedral Catholic. She hasn't committed yet. They really need to update Laren Rosenthal's uncommitment versus commitment status, as she's committed to LMU. Gentry Barker, I think, she's not committed. And then Ava Burgess is not committed. Stella Delgadillo, not committed. Eva Jeffries isn't committed. Wait. I thought I could have sworn Eva Jeffrey. Am am I thinking of the wrong player? I thought Eva Jeffries was committed to Missouri. Maybe I'm missing something, but I thought I saw on her Instagram that she committed to Missouri. I don't know. Then you got Dakota Huynh, who is a libero from Plano East. She hasn't committed yet. And then McKenna Barnes from Marymount. She hasn't committed yet. She's from Long Beach Mizuno Volleyball Club. Then you got Cynthia Ackerman, uncommitted. And then Hannah McGinnis. Now I know she is from Sierra Canyon. She hasn't committed yet. And her father is Willie McGinnis, former NFL player, former USC football player. And Olivia Greenwood hasn't committed yet. She's from Cathedral Catholic. I'll be seeing her. Brooke Friesen hasn't committed. And Laylee Steinfeld hasn't committed yet. So that's just some of the players that have yet to commit yet. But all in all, that's basically it for the notable class of 2027 players that haven't committed yet. And I just wanted to get those two players out of the way just because, well, Caroline Ward is one of the top players in terms of the class of 2027, and her committing was big. SMU is starting to get quite a bit of a good recruiting class. They are picking up from last year, which I think is pretty cool. And they're not just having success last year and maybe this year. They're having success for the future. They're building for the future. All right, but that's that right there. And then finally, to close off the volleyball action, I didn't put this news up here. So when it came to a little bit of beach volleyball news that happened that happened just recently today. Sarah Hughes, the U.S. Olympian, she has actually found herself a new partner. So she'll be partnering with Allie Batenhorst, the former University of Nebraska volleyball player, the former USC women's volleyball player indoors, and the former Omaha Supernova. So Allie Batenhorst is transitioning from the indoor volleyball game to the outdoor volleyball game. So I think that is pretty good, if you ask me. I said that wrong. She's transitioning to the beach volleyball game from the indoor volleyball game. There you go. Long story short, Allie Batenhorst is trading in her volleyball shoes for some sand and whatnot. So I think it's going to be pretty cool, if you ask me. Allie Batenhorst did say that she wants to explore options to try to become a future beach volleyball player. She actually was supposed to go to USC to become a beach volleyball player. Then her stock really rose when it came to the PVF, and she was eventually drafted by the Omaha Supernovas, where she helped lead them to the #1 seed and a spot in the semifinals. But I think it's going to be pretty cool. And it's great to see Sarah Hughes working her way back from her injury. My big thing is she going to still be partnered with Allie Batenhorst come the 2028 Olympics? Or will Kelly Cheng and Sarah Hughes get back together once Sarah Hughes is basically 100% and she's back playing in the sand? So a little bit of food for thought right there. It was very unfortunate because Sarah Hughes started off 2025 with that unfortunate lower leg injury, but she's working her way back, and it's so great to see Sarah Hughes back in action. So on that note of beach volleyball news, I guess one more bit of beach volleyball news is that I think it's Volleyball World. Beach Volleyball World is going to be having a beach volleyball tournament in the United States. Yeah, go figure. The Beach Volleyball World is going to be having a tournament in the United States, which I think is awesome sauce, if you ask me. And where it will be is, can we get a drum roll, please? So the location for this beach volleyball tournament, courtesy of Beach Volleyball World, which is the Elite 16, is okay, I'll stop putting you all in suspense. So long story short, the Elite Beach Pro Tour is going to return to the U.S., and the location will be held in Newport Beach. So I don't know if most of y'all know this, but I'm actually from the Newport Beach area, and I think it is really awesome that this tournament is going to be in my backyard, which I think is really awesome. This was announced, I think, on Wednesday. It was on July 16th, which was indeed Wednesday. So, yeah, I'm best believe I'm going to be applying for a credential when it comes to this, and I'm going to be covering this event no matter who says what. I'm going to fight to try to cover this event no matter what, and I'm going to do my part to try to make it happen. So this event will actually take place on October, I want to say 7th. My clicker wants to work. Yeah, October 7th. So October 7th, and it'll go all the way through the 11th. So it'll be Tuesday, October 7th, all the way to Saturday, October 11th. And I just found out that the Newport Beach 4-man tournament is going to be on Sunday, October 12th. So that's going to be interesting because they're playing it on a Sunday, which everyone's going to want to watch NFL and whatnot. But we shall see. But then again, they always have the 4-man beach volleyball tournament when it comes to the Newport Beach Invitational on Saturdays, which is when college football happens. But I digress. Anyway, but this is pretty exciting. I'm really excited for this. I don't know where in the location it's going to be in Newport Beach, whether it's going to be at Corona Del Mar Beach, whether it's going to be like near Newport Pier or Balboa Pier or so on and so forth. But I think this is really awesome, and I feel honored that my hometown is going to be hosting an Elite 16 beach volleyball tournament. So I can't wait to hopefully cover the action. I'm certain it's going to happen. I'm going to be hopeful, and I'm going to fight to try to cover this event and get a credential. But all in all, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know this show wasn't as long. I can guarantee you it's not going to be as long next week because we've only got the men's VNL or the women's VNL to recap, the men's VNL to preview, and I guess some AVP to preview as well in terms of week 7. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, whether your team is playing or not. And I will see you next week for Set Point. And I'll probably see you Wednesday for another show on IE Sports Radio. But I digress. So Larry B says, damn good show tonight, man. Thank you, Larry B. I appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you for taking time out of your day. And he says he really enjoyed it. Aw, thank you, Larry. But yeah, I'll see you all next time for Set Point. Have a great week, everybody. Peace. Be safe, y'all. Yeah.